was the edition of Frontier Opening the Bell. This is the program live, of course, with gentlemen on the show. I'm Temple Ashaji, by the way. We've got Shegun Adams, industrial goods analyst with Winnick Merchant Bank, joining us. Thank you, Shegun, for coming through. Person number 5 here, executive editor here at Frontier Africa Reports. Thank you for making it down to the program this morning. We take off with the markets. How did they close yesterday? We've got Nigerian Stock Exchange keeping the downward trend, continuing with that level, 0.44% on Wednesday. The RVM Stock Exchange was positive, 0.14%, but a comeback from the losses of the previous trading session, because the Nairobi, Egyptian Stock Exchange, which was down some 0.68%, while the Nairobi Stock Exchange fell by 0.90%, and Johannesburg Stock Exchange made a U-turn from the positive trend that we saw at the last trading session to close yesterday, or the previous trading session to close yesterday at 0.27%. We look at the Eastern African headlines now, where IMF raises Kenya's 2021 growth forecast to 7.6% from 4.7%. Sanlam in Kenya says 2020 profit after tax to fall on COVID-19 effects. Sanlam Insurance also warns of some earnings decline this year to around some less than 1 Kenyan shillings in terms of dividends to be paid out on March 5th. Rwanda receives first consignment of COVID-19 vaccines from COVAX, and of course, March Exchange admits 2.5 million ordinary shares, B participation shares of Obvest. This is something that has been in the works for some time now. I'll come to you quickly, Wilson, for these headlines to have a go.
Yes, a few stories. I think it's good news that the Nairobi's derivatives market data went live on Wednesday. Kudos to the team, the Prono, and the rest of the new the leadership of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I think they're moving very fast and furious in terms of efficiency. Nigeria is doing the same. I think across African exchanges, at least the leading ones like Kenya, Nigeria, the BRVM, South Africa, and Egypt, I think they keep innovating and innovating all the time, and I think that's one good news. And I give it to the securities, the entire capital market ecosystem in Kenya. They just signed up, remember, last month with Safaricom to go a whole lot on new virtual trading and what have you. Now the derivatives market data system is gone live. That is good news. I think it's also good news that the IMF is saying that Kenya, East Africa's largest economy, will grow about 7% or 7.6% next year. That is some good news, but it's a whole lot of work for the administration of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Sanlam Insurance is feeling the heat. Remember, they've had to restructure a whole lot of issues with clients. Claims coming through left, right, and center. They kept paying some money out. So they're trying to keep clients happy without really losing them. And I think it's a tough one for insurance companies in 2020 to try to say, look, if you're affected by the pandemic, just like the banks, you can restructure your loans, you can be a little bit flexible with your repayment, for example. But you don't want to scare clients away, whether they're doing insurance or they're your depositors or borrowers, by the way, because you're going to need them, because without them, you don't exist as a financial services institution as well. I know Shegun agrees with that. So you have to balance it very well, and Sanlam has been able to. So the financial services industry will feel a hit, and that's what Sanlam Insurance is feeling with this particular full year 2020 report, which will soon come out. I think it's a bit of a profit warning, kind of. Thank you.
Thanks a great deal, Bolton. Shegun, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, but the Nigerian capital market as a whole has been trying to onboard some derivatives for some time now. Do you see the development in the Nairobi Stock Exchange as a challenge for Nigeria to take on?
Of course it is, and it's a good one which we can learn from. We look at we have been on this for a while. We want to deepen our capital market, and it's very important to introduce this product to the market. These products will, as well as deepen our financial market with those instruments, it will also help speculators, hedgers, to help different players across the industries, even in the real sector, manage risk and also aid capital flow. So I think this is a very positive one we're seeing from Kenya. I hope regulators look at the Kenya example, look at how they're able to overcome some of these constraints. I know our case will be peculiar, but I hope we take this up as a challenge and see how we can fast track the introduction of derivatives into our markets.
Thanks a great deal, Shegun, for that contribution. We look at the Western African headlines here now, where the Central Bank of Nigeria says no plan to bar foreign investors from open market operations auctions. MTN Nigeria has applied to the Securities and Exchange Commission to tap the debt market in the first quarter of this year. At the Nigerian Stock Exchange now, we've seen Royal Exchange delaying the full year 2020 earning financial statements for first quarter 2021 earnings till June and July this year. Stanbic IBTC opens a CP, a commercial paper there, $75 million. Cote d'Ivoire raises loan of some 66.6 billion CFA after a bond issue. We've also got Guinea, the Republic of Guinea, where EBID approves or okays some 10 million euros credit line to Vista Bank for SMEs financing in that region. Chago, let me come to you with some of these corporate headlines that we've got here. You've got MTN applying to the Securities Exchange Commission to tap into the debt market. You got Stanbic IBTC also floating a CP, and Royal Exchange on the Nigerian Stock Exchange is also delaying its full year reports.
Okay, thank you. For MTN, the rationale of raising debt at this point in time is due to the low yield environment. It's cheap at this point to raise debt capital, and so the company is seeking at this point in time to just raise this capital. One thing to note, which is very important, as we have seen, is that the company just needs to watch its debt level, because as we recall, in their full year 2020, their gross debt rose by 26% to more than half a trillion. That's 521 billion thereabouts. And we also saw their net finance, which is negative. So we saw it increase by around 25%. That was for full year 2020. So it's very key what they're doing now. It's good to raise debt at this point in time when we still have yield environment at a very comfortable level. We don't know what to be towards the second half of the year. Likely, you might see it, CBN start hiking rates back as things seem to be going well. So that is very important, and they have to work that. Then concerning the CBN OMO stance, we have seen the central bank come out to say that they don't have any such plans as at now. But what is interesting is the fact that the central banks acknowledge the fact that OMO issuance, they are quite expensive, and they acknowledge that fact. And that was why in 2019, we saw them come out with the policy to exclude domestic loan players. We all know that conventionally, traditionally, the OMO instrument does not involve the foreign market, but we know our peculiar situation where we need hot money to sort of help with our currency situation. So the central bank has come out to say, okay, this is not happening. And really, the central bank, I think one of the key things the governor said was that they are the ones in place to tell us if this would actually happen. But then we have seen concerning OMO, we know that it has been one of the most attractive carry trades for foreign investors in Africa. According to Bloomberg estimates, the return of investment in dollar terms have been around 30% for foreign investors. So all of these are there. We know the challenges and peculiarities, and the CBN will let us know when it is, or will guide the market on what it is doing. So we can't say what the CBN, we can only speculate what the CBN will do, but actually it's their prerogative, and they determine the tone.
Thank you so much, Shagun. Bosun, any contributions?
Yes, I shouldn't sort of open the tap on that conversation. Yesterday evening, I had the privilege of speaking with Dr. Mahmoud Hassan, who is the Director of Monetary Policy and who was credited with that story. We had an interview with him on Arise News channel for about 12-15 minutes, and he spoke about the situation of things. Really, the central bank cannot afford to do away with foreign portfolio investors. They would just have to hope, plan, pray, and act in a manner that the cost of borrowing will not be as high as that 30%. 30%, I'm telling you, it's a sweet carry trade, but I'm telling you, if you have the kind of lopsided economy, national economy that Nigeria is, unlike Egypt, which is very strong in industrial manufacturing, tourism, and all of that, oh, come on, give me a break. You won't have that here. You can, it's 30% in dollar terms, it's not sustainable. And we all know that. So the central bank will continue to adjust, will continue to make way for foreign portfolio investors that want to exit. That's much Dr. Hassan said. And how does the exchange rate come in there? He also spoke about the need for that the central bank is allowing interplay of market forces. If you look at the I&E window, and Shegun knows this, we've seen as high as 422 last week at the I&E window, intraday trading. We've seen closing levels around 410, 415, 411, and what have you. So it looks like the figure 4 has come to stay at the I&E window as far as the exchange rate is concerned. I think the lowest I've seen was about yesterday, 388.25 to the dollar. We've seen 390 intraday low, then you see 420 intraday high. In the middle, you're talking about 410. So it looks like figure 4 is where we are right now as far as exchange rate is concerned. In the manner of speaking, what I gathered as a journalist was that the central bank is allowing the markets to gently correct itself, rebalance itself towards an appropriate pricing rather than do the fixing. So we still have the central bank exchange rate, officially speaking, at around 390 or thereabout. But I think they've allowed the market now to start adjusting itself a little bit towards the parallel market rate in the manner of speaking, without really trying to. So that makes foreign investors comfortable. I say, look, if you don't get if you can't you can't take out your money now, you can't repatriate it now. When you want to repatriate it, it's not going to be at this rate, it's going to be at the market rate. So I think that's a way of making them happy and to stay within the market. You get my point. If you're looking at doing your exit at 360 before, or you now see that the market is at 400, 410, 420, okay, well, maybe I can still reinvest because I know that when I'm reinventing, when I'm exiting, I'm not going to be exiting at about 350 or 320. I'm going to be exiting at about 400 plus in the market. So that will keep foreign, because the central bank needs this money and needs fresh inflows.
Appreciate that. Thanks a great deal, Bolson. I mean, the same thing you're saying is what has been affecting a couple of other markets. I mean, the whole foreign exchange constraints. It's a glaring case for several other frontier markets on the continent. Let's talk about the Southern African space now, where Standard Bank of South Africa sees earnings below 55% in 2020, between 45 and 55% specifically. Namibia's restructuring its mining sector. They've got the new mining rules to cut speculators, boost local ownership to 15%. The Shago Holdings reports PAT of 631 million in terms of full year 2020 numbers. AirNamibia says government is owing some 4.14 million Namibian dollars in its tickets. And for Zimbabwe, Afrexim Bank agrees to pay or to offer some $70 million funding to Bridge border post. Wilson, let me come to you before I get the thoughts of Shegun on these headlines from the southern part of Africa.
Very interesting, and I love what Afrexim Bank is doing. Let me start from the bottom of the table. The way Afrexim Bank and EFDB has been intervening in Africa's infrastructure, agriculture, health, whether it's COVID-19, whatever, electricity, airports, and what have you, across from the West Coast all the way to East Coast, is so amazing, and I just love the leadership they are providing. And I'm not saying this because these two gentlemen are Nigerians and I'm a Nigerian, but the fact that these two organizations had come away from 10, 20 years ago in which you hardly hear about them. There are two organizations existing somewhere in the middle of whatever. But now they have become household names within the global marketplace in Africa. They've warmed up to the various government and private sector players. They are now, communication is a whole lot better. And of course, you can see the confidence of their shareholders, whether they are sovereigns or institutional, in terms of capital raising. AFDB went up raising double digit in billions of dollars. Afrexim Bank is getting support left, right, and center. And they're also lending fast and furious. They're supporting various initiatives across the continent. And I think this is one good thing we should clap for them. Namibia, AirNamibia, it was sounding a bit more like Nigerian Airways before it collapsed, in which government officials will fly the airline and they will refuse to pay or have backlog of tickets to pay. It's a very sordid story across Africa in which government officials believe that government money is in government house and is in government pocket. So any government official that is there at that point in time is a government official and I can do away with the money. I think this mentality has to change. Okay. Look, if British Airways is run that way, look, it would have got grounded long ago. So please, if you fly as a government officials, pay for your ticket, because again, you get your salaries, you get your allowances, you get your travel allowance, you got your extra quote. Then you fly in AirNamibia, then you're not paying. Then the airline becomes so moribund. Look at Ethiopian Airways, for example. Ethiopian is just a good story of a way in which the government can be part of a business and it can still be run successfully and at least profitably to some measure and be an iconic brand for the continent to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, great deal, Bolson. Shagun, any of these headlines catching your attention?
So on the Standard Bank, so what we're seeing is a reflection of the realities that we all lived through last year. I can recall around March and then in June, we saw different rating agencies come out to say that South African banks are going to have it tough, which was expected on the back of the COVID-19 pandemic. What we're seeing is the risks are catalyzing, and we are seeing that we're expecting credit losses to spike in those in that market and in the region, and that will affect the earnings of the Standard Group. I think looking at the 2021, there should be some form of respite for there, but the earnings for 2020 and the forecast is not unexpected, given what we saw last year.
Thank you very much, Shagun, for that contribution. Of interest to me is the restructuring that Namibia is also carrying out in the mining space there to ensure that there's more of local content and, of course, to help them manage speculations in that space.
I like that.
Yeah, it's, very, very
I love that story, Temple, because I just love what the government is doing there, and I think we could all borrow this. See, political leaders in Africa need to take very bold decisions. This is Namibia. Say, look, you can't just take all of this and foreigners just take us up. Look at what is happening to Congo, DRC. The whole resources of that country have been taken away by the Europeans, led by Britain and a few others. Look, now if you want to do extractive business, and they have uranium, they have diamond. These are rich resource materials. So please, raise the stake of local or indigenous Namibians to 15%. That's what the new rule is all about. Raise it to 15%. Whatever they bring to the table, let it happen that way. We need to do that in the same oil industry in Nigeria, oil and gas industry in Nigeria. We need to do it around all the whole extractive industry in Nigeria as well, so that indigenous investors can come in and people who are sweating at the mines can see some benefits at the end of the day.
And at least put some framework in place so that this foreign portfolio or foreign direct investors can also understand the reason why it is necessary. Let's finish off now with the Northern African markets, where we've got Egypt looking to invest some 5.5 billion pounds, Egyptian pounds, in 2021 to upgrade its internet services. We've got first Abu Dhabi Bank to fully take over Bank Audi Egypt by the second quarter of this year. Islamic Gambia says profits dipped by 55%. We've got Tunisia Air saying Belgasem Taya is now the new managing director for that company. And of course, Morocco's energy bill declining by 30.4% since January this year on the supplies or constraints of gas and fuel oil. Bosun, let me hear your thoughts on this. Help us to understand these headlines before I get the buying of shares.
I'll just speak to just about one or two with Egypt there. Spending this amount of money, about 5 billion local currency to upgrade the internet. Look, I mentioned the Egyptians a little bit earlier. You see, these pharaohs have a way of doing things. I think maybe they are coming back to be an Egyptian empire. I don't know what their mindset is. But it looks like President Al-Sisi, as Ali would always say, seems to have his hands on everything. Every single day, Temple, you hear one in the news, one piece of good news that make you happy and make you feel enthused about Egypt and being part of the continent.
True. I agree with you.
Spending this money to upgrade the internet means, look, you want to do a whole lot of things. You need the internet. You need to expand it. Egypt is building a couple of new cities and new towns all the time. They're just expanding. They're building new special economic zones, by the way. They're doing oil and they're doing gas, they're doing oil, they're doing seaports and things like that. And the backbone of this is to upgrade the internet. Look, I want to see Nigerian authorities, and I'm going to come back over because it's a charity begins at home. If we're selling 170 million, almost $200 million spectrum renewal license to Airtel, and MTN will pay almost the same amount. Between Airtel and MTN, Nigerian authorities will be making about 500 million US dollars. That's the home truth. To renew their license for the next 10 years. Leave 9 Mobile, Glow out of it. Let's just talk about the big two, which is Airtel and MTN. That's $500 million. How much are we committing to upgrade the internet infrastructure at a national level to be more inclusive, to help the security infrastructure that we're having with the problem of insecurity across the country, you know, and all of that. So this is very good example that Egypt is laying. And then the whole issue about the First Abu Dhabi Bank, and I think they've been at it for some time. Yeah. They should just wrap it up in the second quarter. This handshake between the Middle East and North Africa, in fact, it's more than a handshake, it's an embrace. This brotherhood that they've had on many fronts, social, religious, cultural, whatever, is also there in the financial services space.
Seriously cashing out between themselves, Arab and of course the northern spares. And it's good to know really that, I mean, Egypt is really doing well. I mean, I went to a company here in Ashford recently and I saw a couple of berries, strawberries, black currants, everything coming from Egypt, specifically from the International Company for Production and Processing of Agricultural Products, ICAP.ne.com.eg or thereabout. I mean, it's really impressive, really impressive. Shegun, before we finish off rather, perhaps in the next, can you give us your thoughts on in the next 60 seconds or something on some of the headlines in northern space of Africa, northern part of Africa? I beg your pardon, please.
Okay, to just talk briefly on Morocco. So we saw the decline in the energy subsidy. Morocco is a net importer. I think 91% thereabout of its gas is imported. And so because of the decline in prices last year, also subsidy declined. But I think the more interesting story is the case of Egypt, where we see them preparing. So we'll be talking about new realities. We'll be talking about the new phase, the new world we are going to be in post-COVID. But countries need to start that investment today. Countries need to put those things in place. And if countries are not serious about these things, I think they will not be able to keep up with the new reality. So it's a big one for Egypt, and I hope Nigeria emulates that. I hope we begin to put those infrastructure, as much as we talk about the road, as much as we talk about those kind of infrastructure, we also need to look at digital infrastructure in the country and how we can enhance this, because that is where the world is tending towards.
Shegun Adams, thank you for your wonderful analysis and contribution on the show this morning. Industrial goods analyst with Greenwich Merchant Bank. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Frontier Africa Reports. I appreciate your insight on these headlines this morning. We do hope it helps our investors across the continent to make the right decision in investments today. Temple Ashaji. This has been Frontier Opening Bell for today, the Thursday edition for this week. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.